while ago, about I think 3.5 years ago now, to be precise, in Washington DC. That too because of a very interesting development I saw posted in the newspapers. In fact, for those of you who are probably not familiar, for those of you who are not aware, let me quickly bring you up to speed on what Srujan has been doing and what he has done in the past as well. Before I go into that, let me also say, by the way, it's a great name. I was just thinking about it. Kandou reminds me of one slogan that I've heard in the past. When President Barack Obama was running for his election, his big slogan was, "Yes, we can." I think Kandou is a great line. Basically, it sums up, it's self-explanatory obviously, sums up so many things, gives you that aspiration that you can do if you apply yourself. So I think it's a great name, whoever came up with that, great name, firstly. Secondly, you said this is your World Chip Design Headquarters. That's what you made me unveil. I'm truly proud, truly impressed that you actually followed our conversation, made it a reality, and you brought it here, right in front of your parents who are sitting right here. More importantly, Srujan, like you said, this is just the beginning. Because every journey of even 1,000 mile starts with baby steps, starts with one step. And I think this is a great first step. And I'm sure with the kind of abilities you have, with the kind of connections you have, with the kind of exposure you have, with the kind of experience you have, I'm sure you will bring a great semiconductor ecosystem, which is all powered by AI, to Hyderabad, and I'm sure Kandou will be the epicenter of that. I do hope that you will make it happen sooner than later. And more importantly, going back to what I was saying about Srujan. So one fine day, I was, when I was in the government, I get this news clipping saying there is this Telugu boy who's now going to be leading the US ChipSat program. So I was like, wow, who's this? Let me find out. Then I actually sent that, press clipping to somebody I knew. Tried, like they say, 6 degrees of separation. If you have to get hold of anybody in the world, all you need is 6 degrees. But in Telugu land, you only need like 1 degree of separation. All you need is one, especially if you're a Telugu and a techie, then it's very easy to connect. So all I had to do was send it to 1 or 2 people. Then they immediately figured out, okay, this boy is actually from Telangana. And then suddenly his father, somehow we connected. Then I got Srujan's number. So I reached out to Srujan saying, hi, I'm going to be in DC. I'm going to be in, not DC, I'm going to be in the US. Where can we meet? I knew that he was based out of New York City prior to joining the ChipSat program. I knew that he was working for Goldman, and then I think he moved to DC. So he said, why don't we meet in DC? So we met, we had lunch. There was no talk about politics or there was no talk about anything else. It was just pure passion that drives, that drove our conversation. Passion for the state that we come from, Telangana. Passion for the city that we come from, Hyderabad. Passion for what we work towards, that is technology. So I could see that convergence, I could see that, potential synergy. All I had requested Srujan was, I told him I'm immensely proud of what you have become in the sense of leading this brilliant program, working with the US government, the Joe Biden government, and making sure that the US government becomes self-sustaining in terms of their abilities not to depend on anybody else outside of the US for chips. So that was the program he was driving. And I have to tell you, this guy is very humble. I don't know if it's classified information, but I'm going to share it anyway. Even if Donald Trump throws me out of the US, or even if he doesn't allow me to sit back in US, that's fine too. With US government giving about $50 billion, Srujan was able to raise $500 billion of investment, and all of that went into the US chip making program. Now that deserves a big round of applause actually. That's what Srujan Linga has done in his past life, in his past avatar. Now this is the new avatar, which is even more impressive, because what he was talking about, the computational ability is increasing with AI powering everything, permeating into every sphere of life. I think it's only a matter of time, because today, whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not, everything around you is basically being driven by AI. You may not realize, in fact most of us may not even realize what we're experiencing. Fact is, artificial intelligence is one tool that is really going to be the major disruptor of this millennium, I think. In fact, just to give you an example, if your phone is on, it's just not in airplane mode and it's not switched off, and you're talking about a specific thing, next time please watch what happens as soon as you open it.
context. It remembers the context.
It doesn't just remember the context, it gives you the information that you were actually talking about a minute prior. It's freaky. I mean, it's a bit freakish to imagine or to even realize that somebody else is listening in while you were talking or blabbering about something. Say, for example, you're talking about, just as an example, you're talking about Kandou and AI, and you had your phone right next to you. The next time you open your phone, and next time you just start looking around, browsing around, you will see AI-related references, maybe competition of Kandou, maybe bunch of, who am I talking to here? I think I'm talking to all of you guys who are probably 1,000 times better equipped than me in delivering lectures on AI. But what's heartening to see with the consumption increase, with the ability of Indians to adapt to technology rather quickly, I do foresee some humongous things happening over the next 1 decade in India. Our policies are going to change. Data localization is going to become the norm across the world. So for instance, the data that gets generated here, the data that probably gets created here is going to be mandatorily, stored in India within the geographical boundaries. So that means you need more hyperscale data centers. More importantly, the computational abilities will also change exponentially. And who is the ultimate end user? Who's the ultimate beneficiary of all this? I think that's the key question. As Srujan was saying, one could be the Indian farmer. How an Indian farmer who probably does not have to even write a line of code or does not even have to know a line of code, how is he or she going to benefit from the power of AI? I think that's a great solution for a minute to even think. Because everybody around the world is going crazy with AI and job loss that it is going to create. But the fact is, there's always in life a big, huge silver lining around any cloud. And this isn't even a dark cloud. I think this is a great opportunity for humanity at large. Not just agriculture, healthcare. We are a country of 150 crore people. How is AI going to change the entire healthcare dimension for 150 crore people, some who can afford, some who can't? How is AI going to change the education and how we impart it today for our next generation? So these are the simple things. I mean, if you apply, you guys make great infrastructure, you said, at a low cost, which is music to my ears, because that's what we need today. That's absolutely what the world needs today. How can you create great infrastructure economically, and how can you make sure that infrastructure actually alleviates the basic problems that are being faced by humanity? And these are the things that we all need to focus on. So people who call AI a monster probably have no clue as to what it can do for humanity. People who do not see the positive side of AI do not understand what can be changed if governments and private sector work together. What I would appeal to, Srujan, is this is a great first step. And I'm sure you're going to go a long way to many places where Kandou is going to do much better. But I would want you eventually not just to make this your chip design center. I would want to also see the day when we'll actually be making the chipset right here, the manufacturing, the assembling piece, designing, not just designing, but manufacturing as well, happening right here in India, preferably in Telangana, hopefully. And more importantly, I think the power of AI has just been unleashed. And somebody like Srujan, who's got the exposure, who's got the experience, who has the ability to straddle the West and the East, you guys are ideally poised. You are ideally poised. In fact, people like you are ideally poised, because with the kind of exposure you have in the West, with the kind of experience, with the kind of connections, with the kind of networking, what can be ddone for India? Because we all have this dream. While some of us in this room may have achieved a few things in life, I think there's a large part of our society which still is looking for opportunities, which is still is craving for more and more economic benefits, so to speak, on par with first world and second world. So what I would urge you to do, Srujan, is don't lose perspective. While Kandou is great, I think what we ought to do for India, end of the day, what you ought to do for your motherland, Telangana and Hyderabad, is to create an enabling ecosystem which is going to create more and more companies like Kandou coming in and creating that brilliant infrastructure, brilliant ecosystem where humanity at large thrives, not just survives, but thrives and does extremely well. So my kudos, my compliments to your parents, they have given you the right kind of education, they've given you the right kind of support to be able to, position yourself where you are. And Bhaskar Reddy garu, I know, I've just run into him after a very long time. Good to see you too. And to all the employees of Kandou, I can tell you one thing for sure. There cannot be a better leader for you than Srujan Linga. He's a great guy, and I just hope you guys go from here to onwards and upwards, as they say. Good luck. God bless. Thank you.
So, what we wanted to do, KTR garu, is a small fireside chat with you. I have a few questions, but
And let's also keep it informal. If any of them wants to chime in, any of them wants to say anything, ask anything, just don't shout and yell. I've had enough shouting and yelling back home, so. I'm kidding. My wife's great.
with questions, but I have a few prepared questions.
Sure.
To start us off. First, I don't think many people know this. KTR garu has an undergraduate degree in microbiology, and then he went to New York to do his MBA. And he was actually very well settled and in an upward trajectory in New York. When he left it all in 2006,
Right.
To come back to Telangana and fight for Telangana state. No, at that point we did not have a Telangana state. And then for a decade, almost a decade after that, we kept fighting until we finally achieved Telangana state in 2014. So it is a very bold and courageous move. So take us back to what that moment was like for you to make that decision to leave everything and come back here and fight for Telangana state.
So for those of you who do not know the history of Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, etc., especially for those of you who are non-Telugu speakers and not from Telugu states, I'll have to give you a bit of a background on this. So this is something that has been going on for a long time, as in the struggle for Telangana is something that has been going on. And you'll be surprised when I say this. 1947 is when India got its independence. You guys have time?
Yes.
For some history lessons? Okay.
I think for you we'll have time.
No, so 1947, 15th August is when India got its independence. But Telangana got it a year later. So we were Hyderabad state back then. We were ruled by a gentleman called Nizam. So we got our independence in 1948 on the 17th of September, 1 year later. And from 1948 until 1956, Hyderabad state was a separate state. The erstwhile Hyderabad state, which also included certain parts of Karnataka, Maharashtra like Bidar, if you look at Raichur, Gulbarga, all these were part of Hyderabad state. Even from Maharashtra, Usmanabad, Parbani, Latur, all these also were part of Hyderabad state. So together, this entire province was the Hyderabad state. So from 1948 till 1956, we were a separate state for 8 long years. Simultaneously, Andhra, the current Andhra, was a part of Madras Presidency along with Tamil Nadu. They were also a separate state from 1947 until 1956. So for 8 long years, the Telugu states had existed separately. Now, even though Andhra was Telugu speaking, Hyderabad state had a mix. It was a confluence. We had Marathi speaking people, we had Kannada speaking people, we had Telugu speaking people, we had Urdu speaking people. So the cultural differences were always there, and it was always going to be a marriage of two very, very different people. So in 1952, sorry for the history lesson, 1952, when the first State Reorganization Commission was constituted under Justice Fazal Ali, who is the Supreme Court judge, he had recommended categorically that Hyderabad be kept as a separate state. He did not advocate for formation of Andhra Pradesh. In fact, even within Hyderabad state, there were reservations against merging with Andhra because of a lot of things, a lot of differences, etc., etc. So with a lot of persuasion, with a lot of effort from Union government and Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, both states eventually came to an understanding. There was something called as the Gentleman's Agreement, etc. From 1952 to 1956, we had a separate chief minister here called as Mr. Burgula Ramakrishna Rao. They had a chief minister also, Mr. Bejwada Gopal Reddy. So all these gentlemen had to come together and ultimately agree to what is called as Gentleman's Agreement. Eventually, the state of Andhra Pradesh was formed with a lot of, gloom, with a lot of apprehension in the air, so to speak, when these two states merged. In fact, why would I say that? Because Prime Minister Nehru, when he was announcing the whole formation of Andhra Pradesh, had said something very, very popularly. He came to Nizamabad. He had come to Nizamabad and he addressed a public meeting where he said, आज एक मासूम बच्ची की शादी, मासूम बच्ची इस तेलंगाना, एक नटखट लड़के के साथ हो रही है. मासूम बच्ची, innocent girl getting married to a naughty boy. And अगर ये मिलाप अच्छा चला तो अच्छी बात है, अगर नहीं चलता है तो जब चाहे तब तलाक ले सकते हैं. No priest in the world, when he's conducting your marriage, is ever going to say you have an exit clause. But Prime Minister Nehru, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, had actually the foresight to be able to see that this marriage is probably going to be a bit rocky. That's exactly what happened. So from 1956 onwards, there were a series of incidents which triggered, because it was a arrangement built on mistrust, it was an arrangement where there was not enough confidence. So therefore, from 68 onwards, the struggle had started. It lasted for a bit, and then eventually, for those of you who do not know, 370 kids lost their lives from 68 until 71. In 1971, there was a party called as Telangana Praja Samiti, which was a regional party. Across the country, India, that is when the Bangladesh liberation had happened, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi had won a massive landslide victory. But only in Telangana, out of the 14 parliament seats here, 11 were won by Telangana Praja Samiti. Goes to show you how deep-rooted the emotion was to have a separate state being carved out again, or reinstated rather. That did not happen in 71 because Indira Gandhi had absolute majority. And in 2001, KCR Garu started another outfit called as Telangana Rashtra Samiti. And that's when things took a turn, because this is the era of coalition governments. So our job in our mind was very simple. We said, get enough parliament seats, create a compulsion to the political system in Delhi, and make sure that Telangana is delivered. So we fought for 14 years, from 2001 till 2014, almost 13 plus years. I was, like Srujan said, I was a student till 2001, till 2000. I did my bachelor's in microbiology from Nizam College here. Then I did my master's in biotechnology from Pune University. Then subsequently I ended up doing my master's in business administration from City University of New York, in New York City. And I was happily doing my job, like Srujan, like many other Indian youngsters who go to the US and who basically do their thing. So I was one of those youngsters too, happily working for a startup called Intra. And then, but in my mind, Srujan, I always knew one thing, that US was never going to be my home. I always felt like I'm away from home. Home is Hyderabad, home is Telangana, home is India. So never felt comfortable staying there for good. So I was, of course, looking for an exit option. And then eventually one day my CEO comes to me and he says, do you know of anybody who could run the sales team for South Asia? I said, yeah, I know. I know someone. So that's how I ended up coming back to India. So I was heading entire South Asian region. I was the regional sales director. So I set up offices in Bombay, just like this man actually reminds me of that. I set up an office in Bombay in 2004. I set up one more office in Colombo, one in Dhaka. One more was supposed to be a satellite office, was supposed to also be opened in Karachi. I couldn't go there. But the entire South Asia was what I was running.
This was the shipping and logistics?
Yes, this was in 2004. So I moved back to India in 2004 September. My father had just won his election, and together with Congress party. The promise was that Telangana would be carved out soon. Now, he waited patiently for 2 years. Congress did not deliver. They said, okay, initially they made promises. As usual, Congress is good at making promises but doesn't deliver. So what happened is in 2006, he resigned. He resigned for his ministry, the Union Cabinet Ministry, and then he also resigned for his member parliament. He was member of parliament from Karimnagar Parliament constituency. So he resigned in 2006. So that's when I could see, because I was in India, I was watching everything that was unfolding. So I reached out to my boss, who was based out of Singapore. He was heading APAC. I used to report into him. So I reached out to him. I said, sir, I'll need probably a couple of months of leave of absence. He said, if I can run South Asia without you for 2 months, then I think there's a problem. And I realized, okay, I took the hint. I said, okay, maybe this is time for me to take a call. So I took the plunge. I didn't tell my father. It's not like he trained me or he invited me into the party or anything. I gate crashed. I ended up working for his re-election in 2006 because it was a do or die battle. If he had lost then there would have been no Telangana today. సింపుల్. ఆ రోజు ఓడిపోతే ఈరోజు తెలంగాణ లేదు 2006లో ఓడిపోతే. సో ఐ హ్యాడ్ టు జంప్ ఇన్ అండ్ like it's not like I was going to swing the tilt the balance or swing the scale, but I wanted to contribute. He is my father. There are other youngsters who are fighting, and here I am in his own home doing a cushy job and staying far away. So andukani aa roju I jumped in, and then one thing led to another. After his victory, I told him. Of course, I got a earful. He shouted at me, said, "What is wrong with you?" Because I had a very nice job, and I was getting dollars and paid in dollars in India, so that was nice. So shouted at me and all that. I told him, "No going back now." And I have to tell you, this is exactly my 20th year in public life. 2006లో రాజీనామా చేశాను, 20 ఏళ్ళు అయింది, ఈరోజు 2026. So 20 years in public life. Yes, I do have had a few ups and downs, but I'll tell you one thing though. The biggest satisfaction I've had in the last 20 years after joining politics was the day Telangana was announced. 2009, December 9th, the day Union government came out and announced the Telangana process would be initiated. And the second most happiest day I'd say is when the bill was passed in Parliament on Feb 20th, 2014. 2nd June is just an appointed day.
Right.
It's a technicality. But December 9th is when the actual statement came out, and Feb 28th is when the bill was passed. So these two things. Now look back and say whether it was a good decision, bad decision. I'll tell you what. You all have one life. All those people who are telling you that you have 7 lives and you're going to be reborn, I am not sure about that. I haven't met anybody who told me that this, in my previous life I was this, and in my current life I am this. So నాకు తెలిసి అయితే there is only one life. ఆ one lifeలో you should live without regrets. So if you want to do something, do it. If you fail, so be it. అయితే అయితం, ఏమైతే ఫెయిల్ అవుతుంది, you go back and do other things. So if you, Srujan is asking me, was that the right thing to do? Tell me how to leave that cushy career. I don't think I left anything. I think I did something that was my calling. I did something that I'm proud of, and I did something that I'll truly take to my grave. ఇది నేను చేసిన ఒక మంచి పని, నేను చేసిన ఒక మంచి నిర్ణయం అని. I'll happily, whenever I have to retire, I'll happily retire.
Thank you. And it's very evident, like the passion and the.
The history lesson was long, I know.
But so you became the IT minister in 2014, and this was a newly formed state, and you had a blank canvas at that point. Fast forward to today, Hyderabad is one of the biggest tech hubs in all Asia, and is going to be one of the biggest tech hubs in the world. What was the one thing that you bet on when you were the IT minister with the blank canvas taking over a new state that would put Hyderabad on the roadmap?
Naku, what I really liked when I took office was the vibe in the city, the youngsters, the aspiration, the energy levels. You have a feel good. When you go to a new place, see, for example, even when you join a new company, you'll immediately connect if there's a positive vibe. There is something which is not quantifiable, which you can't put a finger on and say this is what it is, but there is something, positive energy, etc. So in Hyderabad, of course I grew up here, and when I became the minister, the first thing I did was I started comparing notes. I started saying things like, why is Bangalore ahead of us? Or why is Taiwan doing so well in semiconductors? Or why is somebody else doing so much better in certain things? So when we started asking the questions, the very second day, on 2nd June 2014, I became a minister, I took charge. The very next day, I was at ISB, the Indian School of Business. We had a long session of brainstorming at Indian School of Business, and then we had people from Triple IT come over, which is right next door. So andaram kuchuni, we were brainstorming, trying to figure out what to do. So that's when we realized that, while Bangalore had the first mover advantage, because, they had Texas Instruments setting up shop in 1980s, and our thing only started in late 90s. And so we needed something, something to basically compete, something to basically scale fast. So eventually, after that deliberation, we figured out the one thing that, Hyderabad could latch on to, especially in the knowledge economy where things are moving really fast, is probably to support our innovation ecosystem. And, when we were talking, I realized innovation can't work in isolation. Innovation has to be work in tandem with infrastructure. Innovation has to work in tandem also with inclusive growth. So the 3I mantra is what we latched on to: innovation, infrastructure, inclusive growth. So what do I mean? A lot of people have ideas, Srujan. చిన్నప్పుడు మనము చదువుకునేటప్పుడు కూడా our parents always tell us, నీకు పొటెన్షియల్ ఉందిరా, you have the ability, నువ్వు చదవకుండానే పాస్ అవుతున్నావు, చాలా ఇంటెలిజెంట్. So those of you who don't know, घर पे बोलते हैं ना कि अरे तू बहुत होशियार है, तू ऐसा है वैसा है, बिना पढ़े लिखे तूने पास कर दिया एग्जाम, बहुत चैंपियन है तू. So we are always told that, like you're very smart, very sharp. Every one of us have ideas. What sets us apart from those who get things done versus those who can't is your ability to actually translate that idea into something meaningful. Mere idea, having an idea is nothing, no. Having an idea here or sharing it with your friends over drinks doesn't make any damn difference to the world. Making sure it translates into something meaningful, making sure something good comes out of it, eventually an attempt is made at least to translate that vision into a reality is what sets leaders apart. So what we thought is, why not create a platform? And that's how T-Hub was born. So idea was, again, how can we create this enabling ecosystem from the government side, maybe a physical infrastructure where people can come, get mentorship, get funding, get admin support to launch a startup, because a lot of people have ideas, but they don't know how to actually take it forward. So why not create a platform for that? So within 1 year, we created T-Hub, and later on we created T-Works, later on we created a bunch of other things, V-Works, V-Hub, etc., V-Hub, etc., not V-Works, V-Hub. So all of these things, the one mantra we latched on to was basically that let's focus on innovation, because that is where India is going to make a difference to the world. Let's focus on disruption. Let's focus on ensuring that our youngsters are given an opportunity to actually work with the government and without the government as well and create something truly magical.
Awesome. So actually that's a good segue to T-Hub. Not many people probably in this room from outside the state know that the T-Hub was launched in 2015.
Correct.
And today it has space of over 500k square footage, and there are 4,100 startups that were born out of T-Hub, raising cumulatively about $2 billion in financing. To put things into perspective, if you look at Y Combinator, which is one of the premier startup platforms in the West, backed by the full force and strength of Silicon Valley, they reached the same scale in about 20 years. There are about 5,000 startups that came out of Y Combinator over 20 years. So basically what KTR Garu did, essentially he did the same thing in half the time from the government in a state that was just born. What a remarkable achievement.
So the spirit was Kandou. We can do.
So when you look back at that, KTR Garu, what at the beginning of T-Hub, what were some of the challenges that you had to overcome to actually and set it up and scale? And then second is, when you look back at the exponential growth, what is the one thing that you're very proud of?
Well, the one thing I'm extremely proud of is the impact it has been able to create. See, for instance, I was super proud when I saw the news recently that one T-Hub incubatee has become a unicorn. A company called Skyroot, which just became a unicorn, and it was born out of T-Hub. And the kind of impact it has created, meaning it is the first space tech company from India which was able to send out a rocket into orbit. Now that's something. I mean, it's not just your usual mundane tech startup. It's something which is truly changing and which is truly onwards and upwards, if you ask me, in terms of ambition, in terms of aspiration. The second thing I'll tell you is, when I have youngsters reaching out to me, see, the other day, about 10 days ago, I think it was, a kid reached out to me saying, sir, I would like to come see you and thank you. I said, why? He said, I created a startup out of T-Hub, and today it's doing really well, and I just wanted to come see you because I've been featured in 30 under 30 in Forbes Asia. So I was like, okay, who's this kid? I was intrigued. So called him. He came home, and I was so happy because, he came with his father. His name is Gaddam Shiva Ganesh, and he came to me with his father. So we were sitting and talking. So I was asking this young guy, he was 27. He founded his startup at T-Hub in 2021-22, I think, 5 years ago. He's doing really well now. It's into financial literacy for young students, etc. So he was talking in English. His father was seated right next to him. He was listening intently. I paused because we were talking, and then his father was basically looking at the both of us. So I looked at the father and I said, he can't speak English. So I looked at the father and I said, "Meeku ardhamautunda mee babu em cheptunnado? Do you understand what your kid is saying?" He said, "Naaku telvadu, but meeto కూర్చొని మాట్లాడుతున్నాడంటేనే ఏదో చేశాడు." What he said was, "I don't know what he's saying to you, or I don't know what you're saying to him in English, but the fact that he's sitting with you, talking to you, means he's achieved something." This is what he said. So I was so happy, because here is this kid, and look at his story. You know what his father is? His father was a welder. Welding చేస్తారు కదా. His father was a welder, and he has 2 children, one boy and a girl. The boy cleared his chartered accountancy despite his father being illiterate and not very highly literate. So he made sure that his children got the education. He cleared his CA, then he went to IIM Lucknow. Now then he came back and started his startup. His daughter is studying in UK now. She's doing a master's or undergrad, I'm not sure, but she's there. So I saw this story and I was telling myself, I was like, okay, education obviously is the greatest emancipator. It's the greatest leveler. Here is this kid whose father is a welder, but had the aspiration, his father had the aspiration that my kid should go to a great school, so he did. And then the kid did not remain content. He wanted to do something. Today, this kid, this youngster, employs about 25 people. He's not just a job seeker, he's a job creator. Now, what bigger satisfaction do you want, when you create something like this, where a platform which helps other youngsters to achieve their dreams, become job creators. And in fact, I have to tell you one more story about T-Hub. So creating physical infrastructure is easy. Building a structure like this cement concrete structure is pretty easy. But when we built it, we needed all kinds of things to come to the fore, right? Like, so you need mentors, you need venture capitalists, you need people who can write checks, you need people who can come forward and support intellectually, etc. So I was looking around to see who can inaugurate it. I didn't want a politician to come and inaugurate it because it doesn't make sense. So I reached out to Ratan Tata. Now Ratan Tata is somebody who I've admired since I was a kid. And what was even more impressive with Ratan Tata is somebody who was changing with times. So when this was in 2015, so I reached out to Mr. Tata's office, then he got on the phone. He said, "Why do you want me?" He said, "I'm glad you're doing this, but why do you want me?" So I told him, I said, "Sir, you're 70 plus. But every day I see you investing in startups. Because when you hear the name Tata, you're thinking of robust trucks or robust steel plants or robust power plants. But here is this gentleman who's writing checks to young startups." So I said, "Nobody represents this change that is sweeping in India today better than you. So I want you to come inaugurate." He said, "I'm indisposed." I said, "I'm fine. I'll wait for a few months." So I actually waited for 3 months for Mr. Tata's time. And he came eventually and he inaugurated. And I'm glad that he did, wherever he is up in the heavens. I'm sure he's blessing us. I'm sure, with the kind of words he said when he came here, the line he used was, "This is the face of New India," when he came to T-Hub. So that made me supremely happy. So point is, yes, in India we can do things. We can do things better than probably Vicom and others, because Indians are supremely talented when it comes to tech adoption. Srujan, when I was a student in the US, back in late 90s, I used to have a big Motorola phone. Back in the day, that was like this thicker phone. To carry it itself, it's like a wireless set, man. It was heavy.
Like a brick.
Oh, it's a brick, it is, actually. So I used to come back to India for a holiday. I used to see all sleek Nokia phones here. I'm like, I'm in the US, the first world, and India lo Nokia phones, and US lo we have Motorola Banda phones. What is this? But that's how it is. Indians are supremely good. And much before the US ever got on to texting and other texting tools, Indians were already way ahead. Pagers, SMS, we were supremely ahead. I don't know if there's any of my generation here who can relate to that, but that's how it is. So what can happen in the US in 15 years, Srujan? Ikkada 5 years lo cheyochu, provided you create that enabling ecosystem and environment. And that's exactly what we did.
Right.
And one thing to add to what I forgot, 2014, just to give you numbers so you can appreciate what was accomplished. 2014, when we took office, మేము ఆఫీస్లోకి వచ్చిన రోజు, గవర్నమెంట్లోకి వచ్చిన రోజు, IT exports from the state of Telangana were 57,000 crores. When we left office in 2023, it was 2,41,000 crores. And IT employment in Hyderabad in 2014 was 3,23,000 jobs, 323,000 jobs. When we left office, it was 9,46,000 jobs. And imagine this was 2 years of COVID in between, where you didn't know where to work from, what to do. Employees didn't know whether they would be working out of office or home. Employers didn't know whether they'll need more employees, etc. So all these things. But despite that, we grew and grew really well.
So this model of this model of public-private partnership, where you invited visionary leaders like Ratan Tata and Narayan Murthy to be a part of T-Hub, be active mentors to entrepreneurs. Is this model something that you came up with? Why did you believe in this public-private partnership as the right model rather than leaving it to the market forces?
Well, our leader, our Chief Minister KTR Garu used to say one thing all the time. His line, the favorite line if you ask me, is, no individual or institution is a repository of wisdom. So any of us sitting here in this room here as well, we know a few things. We could be specialists, but none of us is the absolute specialist or absolute authority. We do know a few things. You probably know AI a lot better than I do. I probably know politics a lot better than you do. But neither of us is an authority in that subject, right? So what he always tells us is partner. Partner with the best in business. Partner with whoever is ideally poised to take whose ideals or whose goals align with you, and see how you can take it forward. And that's, you don't need to reinvent the wheel all the time. You don't need to discover things from scratch. So he says, pick up the best and take it, make it your own, and then create your own recipe. So that's the mantra we followed across different sectors, Srujan. In fact, one of the things I'm supremely proud of is how we use that mantra even in our legislation making, in policy making. Because a lot of people think disruption is only confined to tech world, but disruption also has to happen within government, in policy making. So what did we do? See, normal course, if somebody wants to start a factory or a new enterprise in a state or in India, there is no time-bound mechanism. It all depends on the authorities, the government, the bureaucrats, the ministers. You're left to their discretion. What we did was we disrupted that. One day we were having a meeting in CM office. So KTR Garu, called in a bunch of us, IT industry, municipal departments and offices. So the question he asked, this was in 2014. The question he asked was, why should the government be in the business of giving out permissions at all for industries or for IT companies or for anybody who's setting up? Why should the government even be in the business of giving any clearance at all? So all the bureaucrats were scratching their head. They were like, what to say to this man? He's a radical thinker. What do we tell him? And then eventually one person said, sir, but what if something goes wrong? How do we know who's doing what? And there has to be some regulation. There has to be some method to this. He said, okay, that is the case, fine. But why can't it be self-certification? Why can't, see, for example, Kandou wants to set up an office. Why can't you self-certify and say that I'm going to be in compliance with the law of the land in Telangana, in India, and if something goes wrong, you can hold me accountable? Because it cuts short so many things. You have to stop jumping. You have to jump so many hoops to even get that basic things done. So that was approved. So he immediately said, why don't we get into that mode where anybody who wants to start a factory in Telangana can self-certify? And simultaneously, for regulatory and compliance purposes, with what the bureaucrats mentioned, he said, let them submit an application online. Nobody has to come to your office. And let them tell you what are the number of employees they're going to be engaging in, how much taxes potentially we could expect, etc., and what are the compliances that are required. Are they a red category industry, orange or green, etc. That's all we need from them. So all the bureaucrats said, that sounds impossible. He said, okay, do me a favor. Why don't you break into 2 or 3 teams, go to places like Singapore or best countries for ease of doing business. Travel, identify the policies there, study them, analyze them, come back. So they actually went. They were given 2 months. They went around for 2 months, came back, and in November 2014, I think it was, we came out with our first legislation in Telangana Assembly. That was the TSI pass. Like how you have easy pass in the US,
Yes.
we have T as I-pass here. Telangana State Industrial Project Approval Self-Certification System. So we promise all clearances in 15 days. If we don't deliver on the 15-day window, on the 16th day, it's a deemed approval. So this is a sort of innovative, participatory, and kind of what do they say? A representative democratic setup we built. Representative in the sense, this thinking comes from private sector as to what the industry wants, and that's why I said, partnerships are important, public-private engagement is important. So we took it to every sphere of our governance, not just to technology and partnerships in T-Hub, etc.
Awesome, awesome. That's actually a good segue to what you did with Foxconn. For some people in the room, Foxconn actually has built one of their largest electronics manufacturing facilities outside of China, right here in Hyderabad, not too far from here. The interesting thing was it was a huge investment, $500 million investment, creating north of 25,000 jobs. The interesting thing was, yes, the magnitude of investment was huge, but the more impressive thing was the speed at which it was executed. So starting from the MOU to actually groundbreaking, it took a mere 2.5 months, when Foxconn themselves was thinking it's going to take 2.5 years to get there. And you famously coined the term Telangana speed to describe this. And that is hugely impressive because, see, I have experience setting up manufacturing facilities in the US for the CHIPS Act. And I'll tell you, nothing gets done in 2.5 months, even in the US. So starting from an MOU to groundbreaking, it takes years. I mean, there are some fabs that are yet to come up there, right? So that is extremely impressive. This concept of Telangana speed is something that I feel is a role model for every government and every institution to learn from. So how did you actually accomplish that? Take us back to the Foxconn example. Like, how do you overcome the bureaucracy, the permits, the land allocations, regulatory approvals? How do you get all of that done in a matter of 2.5 months to get it up and running?
So before I come to Foxconn, I'll tell you a story, a fascinating story that happened in New York. So I was meeting with the chairman of Morgan Stanley in New York. So I was basically making the pitch for them to come to Hyderabad. Was it Morgan Stanley or JP Morgan? I don't remember, one of them. This was again in 2015. So I was making the pitch. I was making the pitch to the chairman saying, Telangana offers you certain things that no other state in India will tell you. For example, I was telling him about the 15-day deemed approvals. I was telling him about self-certification, etc. And I said, no other state in India will offer you this. He smiled at me and he said, no state in the United States also will give you this. Echoing what Srujan said. It takes time, even in the best of the countries, even in the first world. Going back to Foxconn, while the actual thing could have happened in 2.5 months, the real story started in 2015. I have a colleague of mine, Sujay Karampuri, who was my director, electronics and semiconductors. Yeah. So Sujay had this ambition of he gave me a goal, so to speak. He said, Hyderabad, Telangana, Bangalore, we're all software powerhouses. But what about electronics? What about the hardware piece? Now, that is where Taiwan, that is where China are the leaders. How come we can't change it? I mean, how come all the things that we get, we to use electronics day to day, the TVs, the phones, everything, the speakers, the mics, everything is manufactured elsewhere. Why not here? So we decided that we should focus on becoming the Shenzhen of India, right? So that's when we started our pursuit in 2015. Foxconn story, us wooing them, started in 2015. It eventually translated into something meaningful in 2022-23. But we wooed them for 7 years. Sales cycle typically is long. For those of you sales guys here who are chasing business leads, I have to tell you, you have to be persistent, you have to be persuasive, you have to be relentless. That's what you have to be. So we wooed them for 7 years. We chased them, we wined them, dined them, everything. Because they were saying we are already comfortable in Chennai, we have a factory there, we have a factory here. So they were not very keen. So eventually, there was a chairman and then he changed. And the gentleman called Young Liu eventually became chairman. And my colleague Sujay became really good friends with them because, he interacted with them so many times. They were even offering him Taiwan citizenship at one point. He was there so often. So eventually what happened was Chairman Young Liu gave me an audience in Delhi, I think it was. I met him, gave him the whole spiel on how Telangana moves quickly. He said, do you really move quickly? I said, yes. Then he said, okay, I'll come to Hyderabad. And then we agreed broad-based MOU. So when you have a customer, when you have a potential investor coming in, when you have a far-fetched relative coming to visit you after a long time, you certainly want to throw out the red carpet and make sure they're made to feel welcome. So in Shamshabad, I had all airport, we had everything ready. Like he was received like a rock star, like, a big superstar coming to like a Bryan Adams or whatever. We made sure that he was received well. And then the location that we had chosen for their factory was Kongarkalan, which is right next to the airport, in fact, about 20 minutes from the airport. But then I said, no, that's not where he's going first. He has to come to Chief Minister's office. So Chief Minister's office also from Hyderabad airport, you can come straight away through the PV Narasimha Rao Expressway. But I said, no, don't take him that route. Bring him through ORR. So we had to do the whole, marketing gimmicks, right? So yeah, we had to bring him on ORR, make sure that he gets to see the newer part of town, the financial district. We took him on that, road, the entire knowledge city, and then ultimately we got him to Somajiguda, which is where the CM camp office was. So the minute he steps out of the car and meets Chief Minister KTR Garu, the first thing he said was, is this India? Because for him, this was the first time he's come to Hyderabad. So you basically make sure that you make a good first impression. And then KTR Garu being, himself, he said, what is it that you need? Then he said, I need land, I need this, I need that. So you will not believe this. Normal course, like Srujan said, all these kind of things, like 100+ acres of allotment, expeditious approvals, all the things that they require, because they are used to working in China, large factories, dormitories for the workers, etc., etc. It takes a tremendous amount of time because there are 10 or 12 departments which have to work together. But we made everything happen from the time the meeting happened, the MOU happened, till groundbreaking, within 2.5 months. Till groundbreaking. I'm not saying approvals or mere paperwork. I was there again. I had to fly back from Europe for this groundbreaking, and then I had to go back again to Europe. That was a kind of agility with which we moved. And that's why today I'm super proud. That's the largest investment we were able to attract in our 10 years, a $500 million investment. The idea was, Foxconn was supposed to create 100,000 jobs. Now I think they're a bit slow. I think they're at 25,000 odd, I'm not sure, subject to correction, of course. But I do believe that this will consolidate our position as the premier destination for electronics manufacturing in the city of Hyderabad. And with more semiconductor chipset makers and new chipset makers and design companies coming in, I think it's only going to augment our capabilities even further.
Great. See, most people, when they think about Telangana state, they think about technology and software. But you fixed one of the most hardest and toughest problem in manufacturing, which is how to deal with fragmented supply chains. When you set up the Kakatiya mega textile plant park. For those people who don't know it, this was an all-in facility which included everybody from farmers, spinners, to garment manufacturers, to exporters, to designers. Everything was included in one, I think 2,000 acre space, targeting about 185,000 jobs in Warangal. This is one of the biggest problems that we have in the semiconductor space as well, which is how do you create a robust ecosystem and not have fragmented supply chains. And that is a big impetus and one of the big reasons why the textile park has been so successful. Walk us through what are the challenges you overcame to actually get all these fragmented supply chains at one place in Warangal, especially convincing all the divergent parties to believe in the vision and come and set up the operations in Warangal, and today it is scaled to a great extent.
I'll give you a slightly different perspective on this. See, how many of you here have traveled to China? Anybody who's been to China? You should go to that country. It's a fabulous country. I'll tell you why. Just to put things in perspective. In the mid-1980s, China and India, in fact, had similar GDPs, similar economic size. In fact, early 1980s, China was smaller than India in terms of economy, in terms of the size of economy. But exactly 40 years later, 1986, we started at the same place. 40 years later, today we are still languishing around $3.4 or $3.5 trillion economy, GDP. China is almost $20 trillion. What happened? What happened is two things. One, they figured out economies of scale. The Chinese do everything at scale. They do it brilliantly. See, for example, when KTR Garu went to China in 2015, he went to a park, industrial park in Suzhou, I think it is. I hope my pronunciation is right. The park is 70,000 acres. So he came back saying, what are we doing? What are we even doing? Being content, growing at 5% GDP, 6% GDP. What is this? We should be growing at 15, 16% GDP. So he gave us the mandate. He said, let's do things at scale. And then we started identifying sectors where we could do this. So we came out with two projects. One, we wanted to create the world's largest pharma cluster called as the Hyderabad Pharma City in about 20,000 acres, very close to Hyderabad airport. So we acquired 14,000 acres of land. Today it has been renamed as Future City and it has been spinned into a real estate project. That's a separate story. But the second thing we did is we wanted to create India's largest textile park. And not 2,000, but it's about 1,500 acres. So we actually created that park in Warangal. And the reason why we did that in Warangal is because Warangal had a history of Azam Zahi mills back in Nizam's day. Warangal, in fact, for those of you who do not know, Telangana and Andhra produce the best cotton in the world, not India. We produce the best cotton quality in the world. It's better than Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra and Gujarat cotton. We just don't do the packaging properly. So this was all the info that was given to me by South India Mills Association. So what we realized is we have the best cotton, we have the farmers who are not getting enough fair price, and we also have a lot of weavers who are not getting adequate employment opportunities. So the principle that we followed was farm to fashion. The end-to-end goal, like you said, the entire supply chain, farm to fashion. So that's how we conceptualized this plant, this park, and we created it in 1,500 acres. Now the challenge was we ran into COVID in between. 2017-18, we laid the foundation. We were wooing investors aggressively. We signed some of the biggest investors. Young One is a corporation of Korea, South Korea, one of the largest textile manufacturers. We gave them 300 acres in the park. And then I'll tell you a very interesting story. So one day, I had this bad habit of reading a lot of newspapers. I got rid of it now. I used to read 13 newspapers every day. So especially the business papers. So I was scanning, I think it was Business Standard or Economic Times or one of those things. On a Monday, I was reading. I see a news item there saying there is this company which is wanting to move away from Kerala and basically set shop elsewhere. It's a large garment company. I just clicked a picture and forwarded it to my secretary. I said, please make sure you get me the number of this MD, the managing director or the chairman, whoever it is, of this company. I want to reach out. So within an hour, my super efficient secretary sent me back the details saying a gentleman called Sabu Jacob, this is the number. So I didn't want to call directly. I just left a message to Mr. Jacob saying, Mr. Jacob, I'm KT Ramarao, I'm the Minister for Industries, Telangana. Please call back at your convenience. I just left it. I'm waiting, no call, no nothing. I see the blue ticks, no nothing. I'm like, okay, what is this? Minimum you would expect is at least a text. He doesn't call. So I called my secretary. I said, do you have the right number? Did you give me the right number? Because this gentleman is basically ignoring me. So you know what he did? He called him, the MD. And within 10 minutes, I got a call. So the MD says, sir, I didn't know it was actually you. I thought somebody was pranking me. Why would a minister reach out to me? So I didn't bother to respond, sorry. I said, no, Mr. Jacob, it's fine. But I wanted to meet you. And I wanted to make sure that I get this investment to my state. Please don't go anywhere else. Because he was looking at Sri Lanka and others. Sir, the flights are not there now. No flight connection. So I'll have to talk to my travel guys and tell you when I can come. So I said, why don't I send a private flight to you? He's like, what? I said, why don't I send a jet to you and then you can come? It's only Cochin, so it's like a 1 hour thing. Why don't I do that? He said, are you serious? I said, I'm very serious. It's going to cost me, a few lakh rupees, but let me do it. If I'm going to get 3,000 crores of investment, it's worth it. Return on investment, right? So he said, can I share it with the media here? I said, please do, but only right before you're boarding the flight, please do it. Otherwise, the entire cabinet will come and sit in your house and they'll make sure that you don't come to Hyderabad. So this conversation happened on Tuesday. I saw the news clipping on Monday. This conversation happened on Tuesday. He was here on Thursday evening. We received him at Begumpet Airport, where a private jet can land. And then red carpet welcome, of course. We made sure he was brought to the ITC Kakatiya. And evening itself, we gave him a presentation. So he was so impressed, so happy. He said, okay, I'm announcing 1,000 crore investment. Next morning, we flew him in a chopper from Hyderabad to Warangal. And we landed in Kakatiya Textile Park. He saw the infrastructure there. He was impressed. He said, okay, I'm announcing another 2,000 crores. And then evening, he comes back to Hyderabad. Then we also took him to this site, which is Chandanvelli, about half an hour from here, where Welspun had set up a big unit. Welspun is another large textile company. Again, in Chandanvelli, we had set up this beautiful park. So he went there, he saw that, and he was super impressed. He said, I'm announcing 500 crores more. So by the end of the 2 days, we were able to get 3,500 crores of investment from this gentleman. Today, it's one of the largest employers in Warangal. And I'm super proud that we were able to do this because of one simple reason, Srujan. We had the passion, when we fought for this state, we fought with a purpose. We said to ourselves that we will be the best in India. We'll build things at scale. For those of you who are in this room, I would appeal to you, after I'm gone or even now, if you can pull out your phones, I'll engage with me for a minute. Why don't you pull out your phones, please, for a second? Please use chat or Gemini or whatever you use, or Google, whatever you use, and type the world's largest lift irrigation project. No, why don't you let the machine answer? World's largest lift irrigation project. It's not India's, it's world's largest. It is the Kaleshwaram lift irrigation project in Telangana.
Right.
Now when you say Telangana speed ante entante, normal ga oka project alantidi kattali ante 50 ఏళ్ళు పడుతుంది. We did it in 4 years.
Let me actually demonstrate AI over here.
Oh, cool. You're gonna...
So, let's see if this works. Okay. What is the world's largest irrigation project?
Lift irrigation project.
As I mentioned before, the world's largest lift irrigation project is the Kaleshwaram Lift Irrigation Project in Telangana. It's a massive project that lifts water through multiple stages to supply irrigation, drinking, and industrial water.
So that's Kaleshwaram. And we wanted to build the world's largest pharma cluster, Hyderabad Pharma City. India's largest park, textile park, Kakatiya Mega Textile Park. So whatever we did, we didn't compete, we didn't benchmark ourselves against somebody else. We wanted to be the best in the business. So that's why you see the whole supply chain thing that we planned, from farm to fashion, was all conceptualized, done, and implemented in a record span of 4-5 years. Unlike any other state in India, unlike anybody else in India in the past, we were able to do this thing quickly because what we had was purpose. What we had was a leader who had a vision. What we had, the leader was a leader with audacity. Audacity to dream big, audacity to think big. That's where I want to connect back to Chinese story that I just mentioned. Why did the Chinese leave us behind? Why are they so good? Today they're only talking about the US. They don't care for India anymore. Sorry to say this. They don't really compete with us. They don't really look at us as competition. Because we are busy fighting religious wars. We are busy fighting, who eats what, whose God is greatest. We are busy with that competition. Chinese are like, okay, these people are stupid. Let's compete with the best in the West. They're competing with the US. That's where we are left behind. Unfortunately, with all the bloody talent in the world, our English-speaking abilities, Chinese can't speak English as well as we can. We have the largest English-speaking population in the world. The opportunity is there. The aspiration is there. The platform is set. What is stopping us? Herd mentality. Our government's basically messing with us. Our politics basically messing with us. We're happy Somebody tells us, hey, you're doing better than Bangladesh, Pakistan, you're happy. Really? That is the benchmark you want to use? That's the problem with India today, unfortunately. We just are happy that we are doing better than our neighbors. बचपन में एक ad होता था. Neighbors envy, owners pride. Thank you very much. At least somebody from my generation. Onida. With all the gray hair. Yes, man, we belong. So point is, you can't be competing with, lackadaisical fellows, number 2s, number 3s. You have to compete with the best in the world. So I'm sure Kandou as well, that way, plugging in for you. Will compete, will benchmark with the best in the world, and you'll beat the best in the world, and I hope all of that business again comes to Hyderabad. Most of it.
So you have this track record of fighting against all odds, right from fighting for almost a decade for Telangana state, and then fighting against all to set up the Foxconn facility, getting the fragmented supply chains together. We have a lot of engineers and entrepreneurs in this room who are fighting their own battles today. What would your advice be to them when things are very dark in what they're pursuing? What do you wish somebody had told you when you were fighting these odds in your career and through various stages of your life that you want to share?
I think one word answer would be grit. Just forget everything else. If you really believe in what you're doing, if you really buy into the product that you're trying to sell or build, the one thing that you require is grit. No matter how dark it seems, no matter how much of a despair you encounter, I think the one thing that will keep you going is grit. The relentless pursuit of wanting to be the best in what you do. Unless you do it, unless you buy into your own thing. See, for example, you're working for Kandou. Do you actually believe Kandou can really change things and really become the leader in AI? Unless you believe in that story, unless you buy into that story, you will not be happy. You will not be content in doing what you do. So firstly, buy or get the buy-in and get yourself to immerse fully into what you're doing. Our leader, KTR Garu, says one thing. In life, whatever you do, even if you're a canteen, if you're running a canteen, a cafeteria where you're making food, do it immensely, no half measures. Do it fully well. Let everything be done thoroughly, fully, and no half measures. I mean, don't do it with like 50% intent, 40%. Your mind is elsewhere, body is here, and yet you have a goal to meet. Your manager is after you, your boss is after you, etc. If you're doing it, forget everything else, immerse yourself. Remember that grit ultimately has made some I met somebody the other day, I don't want to name names, somebody who's a school dropout. Today he's in the Fortune 500 list, his company is in the Fortune 500 list of India. Just 2 days ago I met him, and he was so proud. He was telling me, you have to come inaugurate something, etc., etc. Of course, I told him, if I come inaugurate, then you will be in trouble with both governments. I told the same thing to Srujan. I said the same thing to Srujan. So point is, I think if you buy into what you're doing, if you really are a believer in what you're going to, or wanting to chart your own destiny, nothing's going to stop you. You might fail, you might hit a few bumps. Of course you will. We before the formation of Telangana, we hit a lot of speed bumps. It almost looked very, very gloomy. It looked like, this is the end of the road, etc. But a leader is one who believes there is always a huge silver lining around that dark cloud. And that's something that you have to latch on to. That's all I would take.
Truly inspirational KTR Garu. So I want to open it up for some...
Anybody, any questions, anything at all?
Audience, probably have, I don't know how much time you have.
Well, maybe another 10 minutes?
10 minutes? Okay, so I'm going to pass around the mic. So I would request anybody who wants to do some Q&A, raise their hands and then we'll pass around the mic.
It could be about anything. It doesn't have to be about technology or Srujan. Hi, what's your name? Vamshi. Nice meeting you.
Last question, adding to that, it's easy to say goal, but
Easy to say?
Goal.
Okay.
But what kind of practice made that to get into that, focusing on only the goal?
అంటే వంశీ వెన్ యూ బిగిన్ నువ్వు స్టార్ట్ చేసినప్పుడు గోల్ పెట్టుకున్నప్పుడు సే యూ వాంట్ బి ద CEO ఆఫ్ అ కంపెనీ అనుకోకని గోల్ పెట్టుకోవడం అనుకోవడం ఈజీ కానీ వర్కింగ్ టువర్డ్స్ ఇట్ రిక్వైర్స్ బ్రేకింగ్ దట్ గోల్ ఇంటూ మల్టిపుల్ సెగ్మెంట్స్ మల్టిపుల్ ఫ్రాగ్మెంట్స్ హౌ డూ యూ అచీవ్ వన్ థింగ్ ఎట్ ఎ టైమ్ ఆ ప్యాషన్ ఆ పర్పస్ అనేది ఉంటే you have to you'll withstand all kinds of nonsense that gets thrown at you నేను అవ్వాలి నేను చేయాలి అనుకుంటే మాత్రం మనసు పెట్టి నువ్వు చేస్తావు ఎవరికైనా అంతే ఉంటుంది కష్టం ఇట్స్ వెరీ వెరీ డిఫికల్ట్ ఇట్స్ నాట్ ఈజీ ఇట్స్ ఆల్వేస్ ఈజీ ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఫాక్స్కాన్ స్టోరీ ఇప్పుడే చెప్పాను కదా 2015లో స్టార్ట్ చేసాము వాళ్ళని ఎంబడబడ్డాం మీరు రావాలి ఇక్కడికి eventually translated into reality in 2022 so it took us 7 long years to convince Foxconn to set shop in Telangana it's not easy 7 years చాలాసార్లు అనిపిస్తున్నాయి వదిలే ఇంకేమైనా చూసుకుందామని కానీ యూ హ్యావ్ టు హ్యావ్ దట్ సింగిల్ మైండెడ్ ఫోకస్ యూ హ్యావ్ టు హ్యావ్ సంబడి పర్సిస్టెంట్లీ ఆన్ ద జాబ్ ఆన్ ద డాట్ ఆన్ ద గోల్ ఇంకా అది దెర్ ఆర్ నో షార్ట్ కట్స్ టు దాట్ ఐ కెన్ టెల్ యూ దాట్ మచ్
Any personal practice we have to make?
అంటే నేను మెడిటేషన్ యోగా అంటున్నా అది తెలియదు నాకు అంటే నీకు ఆ సెన్స్ ఆఫ్ పర్పస్ ఉంటే అయిపోద్ది వంశీ అంటే యూ హ్యావ్ టు హ్యావ్ దట్ సెన్స్ ఆఫ్ పర్పస్ అబౌట్ యువర్ సెల్ఫ్ యా Anybody else? Hi.
Hello, I'm Vandana from Kandou. So you mentioned about you enabling the ecosystem for the chip for manufacturing and the whole setup aspect. So what are your plans or how are you looking about getting those things done as such? Not just for Telangana, but for India as such.
You get me a job to run the Indian government, I'll do it. No, Anna, I'll tell you what.
It's
See,
only a matter of time.
no, I'm an Indian first. So obviously, you know, if I see India prospering, if I see India doing well, I'll be the happiest. So today, Hyderabad is now home to Indians of all states, which I'm super proud of. Today, when I say we have created 1 million jobs in technology in Hyderabad, I know that many of them actually are from different parts of India, which is the way it should be. See, if I can go to the US, if I can work in New York, if I can work in Jersey, and if I can get a job there, and if I can continue to, you know, excel at what I do, why not everybody else? So I believe in that philosophy. But of course, my fiduciary responsibility was to Telangana. So when I was a Minister for Technology, I tried really hard to create an enabling ecosystem for semiconductors here. We succeeded to a great extent. We got companies like Micron to set up their largest engineering and innovation centers here. We had a number of other fab companies come here. But, you know, I don't want to sound negative, but some of these investments were snatched from us by way of arm twisting, which is sad, but that's the reality. PLI is a scheme used by Government of India to basically arm twist some of these companies into going into Gujarat. I'm happy that they're at least in India, but I'm unhappy that they're not in my state. I hope that answers your question at least partly. Yes, we've done very well in terms of creating an ecosystem, but I think long way to go before we can start taking any claims saying that, you know, we are on par with Taiwan or some other place, or long before we can, you know, rest on our laurels and say, okay, we have done well. No, we have a long way to go, but we've made a good beginning. Let me put it that way. I think you guys ran out of questions. That's all right.
But there's one question.
Hi.
Actually. Yes.
Hi, sir.
You're not going to give up.
I'm Krishna Kant. I come from another company, sister concern, and I think this was really nice opportunity to listen to you directly, because whatever the question is not technical or it may be look like a political one.
Uh-huh.
So whatever we read in the newspaper, I think that's a manipulated one. So what I listened from you today about KCR government and like that, so it's a totally different.
Maybe I'm manipulating you also.
Sitting at this stage and the numbers speak, so that may not be that much of manipulation. But at least I see that newspaper do manipulate, and if I form my opinion entirely based on the newspaper, I think I will be foolish. That's the only takeaway I heard.
There's a famous saying in English, Krishna Kant. If you do not read a newspaper, you're uninformed. If you read a newspaper, you're misinformed. And newspapers these days, you know, they're agenda-driven vehicles.
Exactly.
So it all depends on whose agenda they're running.
Yes.
So if they're running my opponent's agenda, then definitely they'll call me a scoundrel. If they run my agenda, they'll make me look like God. So be it. End of the day, boss, in democracy, none of us are here forever. We are not on this planet forever. So it's not like Telangana is my fiefdom, so I have to be in the government forever. No, I think people decide, and people every 5 years, they get a chance to determine whether I'm good enough or not. I'm happy where I am. We've been given an opportunity for 10 years. We did our best. Now somebody else is running the show. Let them do their best. Eventually, my state should prosper. My country should prosper. We should prosper, and we should do well as a humanity. As simple as that. Elections, ups, downs, life, that's all, part of the game. I'm fine by it. That's exactly. Ultimately, I think that's what matters.
One last question, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Nagarjuna.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, so I believe India has a lot of engineers and young people. So we should fund a good institute from state funded or whichever it is. So that we should compete with the world. Every time we are investing other people to come and invest here, asking investment. Instead of that, if we create our own R&D ecosystem funded by the government, then it will become easy, right?
Nagarjuna, good question, but you have to realize two things. The kind of funding that goes into R&D projects, be it in pharmaceuticals or even in technology, etc., is billions and billions of dollars. Trillions, in fact, not even billions. See, for example, when Srujan was working on the ChipSat program in the US, even the US government did not have $500 billion to set up a ChipSat program. They said, we'll give you 50 billion. ఒక బిలియన్ అంటే తెలుసు కదా ఎంత ఇప్పుడు ఎంత 10,000 కోట్లు 10,000 crores. So even the US government gave him about 5 lakh crores Indian rupees lo cheppalante $50 billion. They said, now with this 5 lakh crores, how much can you get us? So he got almost 10x of that. ఆ 50 లక్షల కోట్ల ఇన్వెస్ట్మెంట్ తెచ్చాడు ఆయన. పాయింట్ ఏంటంటే గవర్నమెంట్ దగ్గర ఎప్పుడు కూడా అంత డబ్బులు ఉండవు. ఎందుకంటే ఇప్పుడు రిమెంబర్ వన్ థింగ్ నాగార్జున, ఇండియాలో ఈరోజు కూడా రోడ్లు లేని ఊర్లు ఉన్నాయి, కరెంట్ లేని ఊర్లు ఉన్నాయి, నీళ్లు లేని ఊర్లు ఉన్నాయి, ఇండ్లు లేని పేదలు ఉన్నారు. ఈరోజు కూడా నెక్స్ట్ మీల్ ఎక్కడి నుంచి వస్తుందో తెలియని వాళ్ళు ఉన్నారు. సో ద గవర్నమెంట్స్, అండ్ వీఆర్ ఎ లార్జ్ కంట్రీ, 150 crore people. In a government like, in a country like India, the primary role of a government is to make sure that we feed our people. We make sure that they don't become socially restless. ఎందుకు ఇస్తాం పెన్షన్లు ఇవన్నీ? చాలా మందికి ఇక్కడ ఉన్న వాళ్ళలో కూడా ఒక అపోహ ఉంటుంది. Why are we giving freebies? Let me tell you one thing, guys. For those of you who believe that you're the taxpayers and others are getting the benefit of it, etc., etc., let me tell you one thing. You're a country of 145 crore, 150 crore people. Our per capita is hardly $2,700. Compared to the US, it's $90,000. Compared to England, it is about $60,000. So you're a third world country. You're not a rich country. You're a developing country, so to put the politically correct term. So what is the point here? The point is there is a huge section out there which is languishing in poverty, which is languishing for lack of opportunity. The government's primary job is to take care of them, make sure that they don't become restless, and social unrest will eventually cripple your economy. You see a lot of countries, where there is always infighting, civil strife, and nothing ever gets done. Nobody wants to go invest. So primary job of a government in a country like India, Nagarjuna, is to make sure we cater to the bottom of the rung. Number one. Number two, having said that, should the governments not invest in R&D? Yes, of course. And I have to give credit where it's due. Our governments have done it. Today, if you look at all the institutions, Hyderabad lo, we are the largest pharma ecosystem in the country. How did that happen? Because of one single institute called IDPL, Indian Drugs and Pharmaceuticals Limited. That was set up by Government of India. దాని తర్వాత అందులోంచి డాక్టర్ రెడ్డీస్ వచ్చింది, అందులోంచి హెట్రో వచ్చింది, అందులోంచి ఇన్ని ఫార్మాస్యూటికల్ కంపెనీస్ వచ్చినాయి. Likewise, if you look at all the defense ecosystem here, the DRDLs, RCIs, so many things, the Midhanis, all of them are government established R&D units. They've spawned out today large number of private sector ecosystems. Government has also invested in IITs, IIMs, NALSARs, ISBs, triple ITs. So all of these institutions have been invested. But you have to remember that you cannot create a Stanford or a Harvard or a Wharton in India, because out there, some of these are privately funded, of course, but there are also government funded institutions which get heavy funding, billions of dollars going to R&D there. Can we afford something similar here in India? No. Enduku? We don't have that kind of money. So therefore, the only solution on how we can address this problem is on two counts. One, get partners, the right kind of partners. See how they can invest. Private sector, public sector partnerships, and how you can expeditiously grow, number one. Number two, how can you make sure Indian youngsters like you have that ambition? Today, if a Srujan Linga can do this, why can't I do it? That sort of aspiration needs to be created. The problem is, guys, think about it this for a minute. Look around this room. Show me one product that is manufactured in India. The seat that you're sitting on, the chair that you're sitting on, probably not made in India. This guy, probably not India. Maybe this, I don't know. But anything else you see around here, the mic, the camera, the television, not one single thing is an Indian product. అంటే ఇప్పుడు మీరు ఇంటికి వెళ్ళేటప్పుడు ఎక్కే కార్ కావచ్చు, ఇంటికి వెళ్ళినాక పెట్టే టీవీ కావచ్చు, రిమోట్ కావచ్చు, ఒక్కటి ఇక్కడ ఉండదు. 150 కోట్ల దేశం. ఏం చేస్తున్నాం మనం? అంటే పాయింట్ ఏంటంటే, if we get into that mode where we start saying, why can't I develop a world-class product? You need support, I know that. That's where places like T-Hub, V-Hub, all these things come into play. You have an idea, go there, dabble, see what comes off. At least you try. That's all I would say. Yeah? Thank you guys, it's been great talking to you. I have 2 more events to run to, I'm already late by an hour. So,
Thank you, KTR. Thank you for the
no,
inspiration.
thank you Srujan, really
I
appreciate it.
give a small token and gift for you.
Thank you very much.